Is the Rookie of the Year race already over? Is Cade Cunningham the leading favorite? Has he already closed the case? Has other rookies already closed the case? What's going on with that? We'll talk about that on today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's the best way to support the podcast. I'd really appreciate it. We're on our road to 2,000 subscribers. We're continuing to show Locked On that we are the fastest and best growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, head to our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons and hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Just to give you guys a little update, we did not have an episode on Monday morning. I was not feeling well all weekend. I've been dealing with like a stomach issue or something. You guys know, if you guys been listening ever since I took over, you guys will know this has been like a reoccurring theme. I don't know what's up with my stomach. I think I don't eat right. I think that's what it is, to be honest. But either way, I just wasn't feeling very good Sunday night, so I wasn't able to record. But we're right back at it. I just wanted to give you guys a little update on why you guys didn't get an episode Monday morning. So I apologize for that. But we're right back with it. And while I was gone, or while we missed one day, you guys know I'm very active on Twitter. I think I got this gig because I was very popular on Twitter, very popular with the Pistons community on Twitter. A lot of my content was on there. I had a YouTube channel that definitely played a big part of it. But I'm pretty big on Twitter. I'm active on Twitter, and I talk with a lot of you guys on Twitter. That's basically why I do a lot of my communicating along with the YouTube comments. But anyways, on Twitter on Monday, and I'm recording this Monday night. On Twitter, there seemed to be a lot of conversations across NBA Twitter, not just Pistons community, but just across the whole NBA fan base or community about the Rookie of the Year race. And I know that that's been a heavy topic that we've discussed on the podcast, a heavy topic discussed within the Pistons community. A lot of us feel like Cade is the guy for Rookie of the Year. We feel like he's being ignored because he's in Detroit. We feel like he's not getting a lot of proper due. And it was a big topic that was being floated around NBA Twitter, and it was being talked about across platforms, whether it was Scotty Barnes, whether it was Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham. There was really those three guys, and it was being talked about everywhere. And I just want to take this first segment and talk about this race because it's really irking me. And if you guys are on Twitter or if you guys follow NBA content, a lot of you guys will know who I'm talking about, Nikias Duncan. He's a great follow on Twitter. He also has a podcast that's blowing up. I believe it's like top 10 podcast, sports podcast, whatever. He's also a writer of basketball news. You guys probably know who he is. And he tweeted out basically, and he said he doesn't understand how Evan Mobley isn't just already won the Rookie of the Year, and that he doesn't think anyone's particularly close. And that's what's caused me to come on here. Let me just say something real quick. That kind of thing, that comment, and while I respect Nikias, and he's a hell of a guy, but I absolutely hate that opinion. I think that's incorrect. It's just so bad, and it just shows that Cade Cunningham really, he's just not getting his respect. He's not getting his respect at all, and it's really frustrating. And part of the reasoning that Nikias uses, and all the other people who argue against Cade, everyone that has Cade's like number 2 or number 3, whatever, they use the first like 7 games of his season where he was coming off an injury with no training camp, no preseason, and didn't play well his first 7 games. And the crazy thing about this is I'm not even going to get into the whole, he didn't have a preseason, he didn't have this, he didn't have that. You need to give him slack, because even though that all that stuff is true, it is also true that while that stuff can be fair, it's just how life goes. Like if that's what held you back, it is what it is. Some other guys didn't have that, and they were able to take a lead. Like that right there, that's fair. You can say that. However, the thing that I don't understand, the thing that just irks me, is the idea that all these other players have just been like perfect for all those 7 games. Haven't had no 7-game stretch. Haven't had any bad games amount to more than 7 games. That while Cade struggled for 7 games, all these other rookies have just been completely perfect. They've been utterly dominant, just so much better than all season. That just hasn't been the case. Let me go ahead and just read you something real quick. Evan Mobley has 10 games where he scored 0 to 9 points. Okay? Now, I don't want to sit here and act like that the Rookie of the Year race is all about points per game. Okay? Like, I'm definitely, you guys know I'm not just the guy who sits here and says, it just really comes down to points per game. Like, you guys know I'm not the straight up just box score watcher. That's how I am. But like, scoring less than 10 points 10 times. I mean, that you can't tell me that those were just like fantastic games by Evan Mobley, that Cade's first 7 games are just so bad that those games by Evan Mobley just washes Cade Cunningham out the way. My overall point is that all these rookies have had bad games. All these rookies have had bad stretches. All these rookies have struggled at times. The fact that such a small sample size of 7 games from Cade Cunningham has these guys just like ruling him out of the Rookie of the Year race, it's just mind-blowing to me. Just mind-blowing. Like, that small of a sample size. That just tells me, and one of you guys, one of my followers and people I talk to on Twitter tweeted this out. It's 100% accurate. If you're using that first 7 games as to why Cade Cunningham is not in the Rookie of the Year race, or that Evan Mobley has completely just won it and he's not even in the same conversation as Cade or something, if that's your reasoning for it, you already decided that Evan Mobley was going to win this at the end of November. That's what you're telling me, because Cade has been the best rookie since December. That's what you're telling me. You're telling me that his first 7 games and since the end of November, that's what you need to see. You had this predetermined already, and no matter what Cade Cunningham did for the rest of the season, it wasn't going to matter. You want to know why that is? Because since the first 7 games of the season, this is what Cade Cunningham's averages have been. Over 47 games since then, he's averaging 17.7 points a game, 6.0 rebounds a game, 5.7 assists, 1.2 steals. He's shooting 42% from the field, 33% from deep on 6 attempts a game, and 84% from the free throw line. What are those numbers? No one else is putting up those numbers. He's leading the league or the rookies in points per game. No other rookie is being tasked with as much as Cade Cunningham. And we've brought this up over and over again. Not only is he averaging damn near 18, 6, and 5 as a rookie, which those should just be Rookie of the Year numbers right there. That should be it. Those are Rookie of the Year numbers. Listen, this is a Rookie of the Year race. I don't want to hear about winning team impact. Oh, your defensive win shares. Like, come on, bro. It's the Rookie of the Year race. This man Cade is putting up 18, 6, and 5. He's being tasked with handling a responsibility that no other rookie is being tasked with. And the 2 other rookies that people keep arguing over him, or I really don't think that Scotty Barnes is being argued over him right now, really. I think it's just Evan Mobley. I think most people have Scotty Barnes behind Cade. But those two guys aren't the best players on their team. Cade is the best player on the Pistons. Cade is the Detroit Pistons. He's their engine. If they win, it's because of Cade. If they're in close games, it's because of Cade Cunningham. He's creating everything that happens for their offense. If they win, it's because of him. He is the only way this team has a chance. It's him. The Pistons is Cade Cunningham. The Cavaliers, they have Darius Garland, who is a damn all-star, and Jared Allen is an all-star. They could win with Evan Mobley not doing a damn thing. All he has to do is just protect the rim half the time. All that he has to do is play good defense. Scotty Barnes, he can have a bad game. Guess what? They got Fred VanVleet, all-star. Pascal Siakam, all-star. OG Anunoby, most improved candidate. Like, these guys have great teams around them. They got great players around them. They have guys who can carry the load to where they don't have to do as much as Cade. None of these guys are being tasked with having to play make, having to create your team's offense, having to create offense for others, having to create your own offense, having to keep your team afloat the entirety of the game, carrying the load the entirety of the game. And while you're doing that, putting up 18, 6, and 5. Like, this is not like a few years ago. I'll give you guys an example, and then we'll end the subject. A few years ago, when Andre Drummond was still on the team, we would go to bat for Andre Drummond and try saying he's better than this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. And we'd bring up numbers and try to support it because he's our guy. He was our guy. Now, looking back on it, he probably wasn't better than those guys. We were just trying to fight for our guy. This is not one of those times. This is not one of we're just fighting for our guys. Cade is just so clearly the best rookie out here. It's insane. He's just been the best rookie after this first 7 games. Again, there's just no other rookie that's been asked to do what he's done. If the Pistons win, it's because of him. Evan Mobley can sneak the joint up, and they're fine. Look at what Evan Mobley has done since Jared Allen's been out. We haven't been talking about that. What about that stretch? I don't see him teeing off and lighting the world on fire. The Cavs are 3-7. Oh, that's not being held against him? If you give Cade Cunningham, Jared freaking Allen, Darius Garland, or Pascal Siakam, Darius Garland, they're in the playoffs. Just like every other team, and they're probably better. Because Cade takes the pressure off of everybody. He has to control the entire Pistons offense that has this team is full of non-NBA players. Like, just keep it a buck. Like, that's it, man. I just had to rant about that real quick. It's insane. It's just wildly insane to me. It just shows that people don't really pay attention to the Pistons, in my opinion. That's all it is. Because, again, his first 7 games, he did struggle. He played pretty bad. He was getting accustomed. After those first 7 games, he's been the best rookie. He's just flat out, he has been the best rookie. He has the most, 25 games. He has 7 straight games with 20-plus points. He has the most points, the most games over 25 points as a rookie in this rookie class. Like, he's the best rookie in this year's draft. He should be rookie of the year. Whatever, bro. Whatever. You want to know why Evan Mobley is able to just rely on his defense and play defense and not have to worry about everything else offensively? Because he has Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and a damn playoff rotation around him. How many people on the Pistons roster are going to be on this team when they make the playoffs in 3 years? Like, come on, let's just keep it a stack with ourselves, man. Like, who is going to be in a playoff rotation if you took every single player off? How many? Jeremy, Sadiq, who else? Who? Can you name me? Like we can try to be optimistic and find someone, maybe say someone else, but really it's only Jeremy, maybe Sadiq, and Cade that are realistic playoff rotation players right now. It's ridiculous. Cade's the rookie of the year, man. And guys are just like using those first 7 games against him as such a small sample size when the Cavs are 3-7 in their last 10 games. I don't see that being held against Evan Mobley. Whatever. Let's not even talk about Cade's record since the change of the new year with the Pistons. What is it? 13-16 right now? 13-17? Like, when Cade played, this team is actually decent, and they suck. The roster sucks. Like, that's it. I'm done. That was a long segment, but it is what it is, man. When we come back, we'll talk about a player who's bringing a certain type of connectivity to the Pistons and showing the type of player the Pistons need to bring to their team over the next year or so. They need to have many more types of guys like him, and why he's showing that he may be a long-term piece of the rotation. But we'll talk about that when we come back from the ad break. But first, I have to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, BetOnline.net. It's that time of year again, as college basketball tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. They have football, but football season's over, obviously, right now. But when football season comes back, you'll have football. You have baseball. Now that baseball's coming back, when baseball comes back, finally, you guys will be able to have fun with that, too. They have all kinds of stuff across all kinds of sports. When the Olympics were going on, you had that, too. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Trust me, don't even get me started with the blackjack. I get addicted to it. Oof, don't get me started with it. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action today. Again, head to the website today, betonline.net, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you have not already, head to our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. I'd really appreciate it. On the road to 2,000 subscribers, and we're continuing to show Locked On will be the fastest and best growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't hit the subscribe button already, which over 50% of you guys who watch these videos are not subscribed. And if you're listening to this on the podcast version, you just want to listen to the podcast, you don't want to watch the YouTube videos, that's fine. But the best way to support the podcast, simply just go over to YouTube channel, hit the subscribe. You don't even have to watch over there. Just hit the subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Sorry the first segment had to go so long, man, but I'm just really sick of Cade not getting his just due, man, over some stupid stuff, man. Over some stupid stuff. So, anyways, there's a player on the Pistons who's really starting to turn heads. And I brought him up last week when we very first got to see him in action, really. I said, this guy's a keeper. I really like him. He's a nice player. And his name is Isaiah Livers. Isaiah Livers has been playing extremely well in the minutes that he's been getting since being put into rotation. And this past game, he closed over Sadiq Bey, and deservedly so. And we'll talk about Sadiq later in the podcast in the last segment. But Isaiah Livers is already playing well enough to where he's closing games for the Pistons over when and now obviously not when Sadiq is like, oh, when he's on, or like it's not going to be a consistent thing, but they trust him enough to where if Sadiq's struggling already, they're going to start letting Livers close like they did just previously. So what does that speak to Isaiah Livers? Why are they doing that? It speaks to how high of an IQ he has as a player. First of all, he's already a damn good defender. Again, we've talked about this on the podcast multiple times. Rookies are usually not expected to be good defenders at all. Most rookies are just bad defenders, straight up. That's just usually how it is. Usually, sometimes they're okay, like on ball, like one-on-one. Okay, that's probably when they're at their best. But there's like all the off-ball stuff, switching, rotations, the terminology, the different types of defenses, like all that type of stuff. Usually, they're just straight up awful at it. Isaiah Livers is pretty damn good already at defense. Now, you probably expect that of a guy who's 23 and spent 4 years at Michigan, and he was coached by John Beilein. He's probably had that drilled into him, obviously. And you're seeing it already. You're seeing that happen for him. So, like, I don't want to say that you shouldn't take stuff away from him, but I guess you can kind of say it was expected of him. But either way, he's definitely shown it on the court defensively. Just making the right rotations nonstop, staying in front of his defender, noticing when there's a mismatch down low, immediately switching over and trying his best to get, like, maybe the guard off the big guy, and he guards the big guy. There was a play against, I'm forgetting the team. It was just an overall play. They ran a pick and roll, and the lob was wide open to a guy, and Isaiah Livers was on the weak side. He read the lob coming. He knew that it was going to go to the big guy on the lob, and he rotated over and was able to knock the lob away. A play that's just, you won't see it pop up. Maybe he'll get the steal in the stat sheet. It won't be that big of a deal in the stat sheet, but if you're just watching the game, one of the plays I absolutely would just love to see, one of those plays that you tweet out, and it's just like, this is just a really good instinct play by this guy, dude. That's just incredible instincts to have. There was another play like last week that we talked about on the podcast, and he's done this many of times where he forces them baseline, closes off the baseline, makes the rotation mid, takes away the dump off, forces them to kick it back out, then makes the right rotation all the way back up to the wing. Like, just overall, just if you just watch him on defense, he just does so many good things. It's tremendous to see. But really, and by the way, he's shooting 41% from deep over the last 8 games and 2.8 attempts. Not a large sample size, not a lot of volume, which he should be getting more shots. That's something I wanted to talk about on the podcast. The Pistons, and a lot of this has to do with Killian Hayes not being in the lineup recently. That's where it's hurt the most. But you know what? Let me not get into that yet, because I'm going to try to tie it on together. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. What I want to bring to you guys' attention first is obviously the offense. We just talked about the defense. But offensively, he's only played in 120 minutes, so it's an incredibly small sample size, yes. So take it with a grain of salt somewhat. But in these 120 minutes, when he's on the court, the Pistons have an offensive rating of 110.7. When he's off the court, they have an offensive rating of 104.0. That's an on-off difference of plus 6.7. That is the highest on-off difference offensively of any player on the team. The next closest is Cade Cunningham at 5.3. Now, again, it's only 120 minutes. It is a small sample size, but it 100% matches the eye test. The offense looks a lot better with him on the floor. And why is that? Why does the offense look better with him on the floor? I'll tell you why. He's a knockdown shooter. He knows how to space the floor. He knows the spots he needs to be to space the floor. You can be a great shooter, but if you don't know how to rotate along the perimeter, how to get to the open spots, how to rotate off ball, you won't be able to take advantage of it as much. But he knows how to do that perfectly. The rotation I always tell you guys about, the most simplest one to show is when a guy drives baseline. If you're sitting on the wing, the immediate rotation that you learn in like middle school is rotate down to the corner so he has that easy skip or that easy outlet pass right there along the baseline. Now, that's not the only one. There's like, you want to rotate. If a guy is driving like left side, you may want to rotate from the right wing above the break, because a guy's going to be following him down from above the break. You fill in that spot right there. There's basic rotations like that. He knows how to do that, and he's able to knock these shots down at an extremely high clip. So that's one. But the biggest thing that he does for the Pistons offense, and this is something that they should be looking for. This is something this team lacks everywhere, outside of Cade and Killian, and sometimes Kelly Olynyk somewhat, and a little bit Saddiq Bey. Outside of those guys, really only Cade and Killian, to be honest. The other guys do it a little bit, but it's massively lacked on this team. It's something Isaiah Livers does perfectly, or maybe not perfectly, but extremely well. Connects the offense, keeps the ball moving, makes the right read, always knows when to not take a dribble or to keep the offense swinging and hit the open guy. The biggest issue that this team has, and you guys have heard me talk about this all season with this team, the thing that makes this team the hardest to watch for me is the fact that they refuse to pass the ball. These guys don't like to pass the ball to each other. They're all trying to get their own. They're all trying to get their own, eat their own food. They're not trying to share with nobody. They're not trying to hit the open player. There's so many times when guys are just wide open, they just don't pass it to them. These guys either are not capable of making open reads and pass to open guys, or they just simply don't want to. It's one of those two things. And while right now maybe it's not a big deal because the Pistons aren't trying to win, it definitely hurts the basketball product. It hurts watching it. It hurts the offense in general. And it definitely will 100% hurt your offense if you're trying to compete to win games. I'm assuming the Pistons will try to do somewhat next year. Something that Isaiah Livers does well, always hits the open guy. Always makes the right read. If a guy's closing out fast, he'll take one dribble in, then kick out. He's not trying to do no ISO moves. He's not trying to make the wrong play. If a guy's late on closing out him, he's shooting it every time. You're not up in his face. You're not up in his chest. He's shooting it every time. The last game, he had a play that was just chef's kiss. A guy closed out really fast on him. He came, gave him a pump fake, drove left. He took true dribbles, didn't force a bad shot, didn't force a long two, didn't force a tough runner. You know what he did? He saw a guy cutting down, made a simple drop pass to Marvin Bagley around the rim, a great bounce pass, not bounce pass, it was a wraparound pass with his right hand, and got Marvin Bagley a wide open dunk. You know how many players are making that play for the Pistons right now? Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham. Those are the only two guys that are making that play. No one else is even looking for that. Some guys, Jeremy, taking a long two. Jeremy going all the way to the rim and trying to force something. Sadiq probably going all the way to the rim and trying to force something. And that's better than where Sadiq was at earlier in the season. Earlier in the season, he was taking long twos. Now he's at least trying to get contact, finishing around the rim or getting free throws, which is not awful, but there's better plays that can be made. And it's just this team just lacks passing IQ, passing vision. And really, I talked about this on the podcast a few days ago. I believe it was last week. Corey Joseph also has a pretty bad passing vision and IQ for a veteran point guard that you'd like to have. But overall, the point is, Isaiah Livers is just an extremely high IQ player, knows where to be on both ends of the court, knows the right play on both ends of the court. Killian Hayes had a three from the right wing, like in the game he got hurt. And it was from, I believe it was Cade Cunningham driving along baseline. Isaiah Livers got the ball in the corner. And this is not a play that any other Pistons making. Any other Pistons is holding the ball and deciding, okay, do I want to shoot? Okay, now I'll pass. Isaiah Livers saw the rotating defense coming to him from the wing. As soon as he caught the ball, it was an immediate touch swing pass to Killian Hayes in the wing. Killian Hayes got a wide open three that he was able to size up, get his feet set, and hit it. Isaiah Livers knows where to be on both ends of the floor. He hits threes at a high clip. He plays extremely well, good defense. He makes the right passes. He plays within the offense. He knows how to play. He knows how to impact the game without needing the ball in his hands and by making the right play and filling in the right holes, filling in the right cuts, making the right rotations, all those kind of things. Those are the type of players the Pistons need to fill this roster out with. Not guys that need the ball in their hands. Not guys that can ISO, a bunch of guys that want to go ISO and get you 20 points. You can't fill a roster out with a bunch of scorers. Like, it's just not how it works. I know everyone loves points per game scorers, but that's not how you're going to win games. You need to fill out your roster with high IQ players that know how to play on both ends and know where to be on both ends and know how to play within your system and how to take your system to the highest level possible. And he knows how to do that. And that's why the offense has been so good with him on the floor. So I really like Isaiah Livers, a great find by Troy Weaver. He's not going to probably be anything more than a rotational player, but he's going to be a really good rotational player. I think you can already see that, and that's a good find in the second round. And the Pistons need to fill out their roster with guys like this. Maybe better versions of him that can be starters, obviously, but guys who know how to play on both ends, don't need the ball in their hands constantly, not trying to make the ISO play, trying to score for themselves, just simply making the right play and knowing where to be. They need that desperately because that's what they're lacking the most on this team. Badly. IQ, passing vision, willingness to pass, and just wanting to play within the system. That's what they need, and that's something that Isaiah Livers has been fantastic at. It's been great to see. It's made the offense a lot more enjoyable to watch. Just simply a lot more enjoyable, and it's much more fun to watch. But that's all I've got to say with that. Isaiah Livers, great pick. I really enjoy watching. He's turning into one of my favorite players. And no, I don't really look like him, even though I had a few family members say they could see the resemblance. And neither here nor there. When we come back, we'll talk about Sadiq Bey, who struggled a little bit as of late. Is this a sign that maybe the things before with fluke or whatever? We're going to talk about his struggles coming back from the ad break. But first, let me tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning like, is your Odyssey an LX? Or wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home or in your pocket on your phone. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? For example, Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 from a chain store and only $216 from Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business full of serving do-it-yourselves for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer, and they have everything you could possibly need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even a new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find a solution for your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Make sure you write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate. Best way to support the podcast on the road to 2,000 subscribers. All that good stuff that we've told you guys many, many times before. But yeah, Sadiq Bey. has not been that great recently. He's struggled a little bit over the last 4 games. So I know I teased this with saying, is this to say that maybe the things we saw beforehand was fluke? No, that's not. That was just simply me trying to tease you guys and trying to get you guys maybe a little worked up before you guys heard this segment. I do not think this is what this is saying. That it's just been fluke before. However, I think this does show that I said this, I believe, on the last podcast before this one. It was when I had a friend of the show, Joe Truck, on the podcast. We talked about, Sadiq probably is going to come back to the earth a little bit. And a lot of you guys came at me. It was like, Koo, why can't you just like Sadiq? Why don't you like Sadiq? You're always thinking that he's going to fail. You just want him to fail. No, that's not what it is. Sadiq was playing at an extremely high level. And if he continued to play like that the entire season, okay, that would tell you something. However, it was very likely that he would somewhat fall back to earth because some of the things he was doing maybe just wasn't sustainable. Like if you're able to sustain the stuff he was doing, you're looking at maybe like a high quality starter, like insanely good value for where he was drafted. And that was the case. And that very well may be the case still. Like I'm not saying that doesn't mean it's not the case. However, it was also likely that he was going to end up falling back to earth a little bit and struggle for a minute. Like it was just bound to happen at a certain point. And that's happened over the last 4 games. He's shooting 31% from the field, 28% from deep, 76% from the free throw line. And he's just not playing that well recently. And like I said in the last game, the Pistons went with Isaiah Livers closing the game over him in their loss against the Los Angeles Clippers, which, by the way, we always love to see our former Pistons, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, doing well. Always puts a smile on my face seeing those guys play well. But is there reason to be concerned about Sadiq? No. It's just 4 games. He's struggling a little bit right now. Could this show that he maybe is a streaky player? Who knows? It could be. But he's also like, this is just, you guys know how I talk about McKillian Hayes. He hasn't even played 82 games yet. And everyone wants to try and put the finishing print on what he's going to be and try and make prediction of his outcome and everything. How I say that's just incredibly too small of a sample size to find out. Like Sadiq also, it's just too small of a sample size to come to the conclusion that he's just a streaky shooter and that's what it's going to be. Like these guys are only in their second season. Sadiq's played 138 games. That's about way more than Killian's played. And yet that's also an incredibly small sample size. Like that's not enough to be able to make finalized predictions on these guys. Could Sadiq just be a streaky guy? There's some hints that he may be like one of those guys who just gets super hot and also could just be super cold at the same time. There's evidence to that. And there's also evidence that maybe he's making improvements. He just hits like a little wall every now and then. He just has to get back up from it. Like who knows what it is. But just wanted to point it out a little bit that he is struggling over the last 4 games. And it's going to be something to keep the eye out for the rest of the season. Let's see if he bounces back and starts to play well again. He wasn't getting to the free throw line nearly as much as he was before. He's only getting 3 attempts over the last 4 games. He's not shooting well from the free throw line, from 3 and from 2. So he's struggling from across the board. But really, that's not that big of a deal. I'm not too worried about it right now. The Pistons still have 14 more games to go. If he struggles the rest of the year, then maybe it's like, okay, maybe he was coming back down to the earth and maybe that was just a hot stretch he was riding. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's going to end up bouncing back and figuring stuff out or just getting over this tough spill. I mean, it's not, again, I don't think it's too big of a deal, but I think it is something worth watching at the end of the season, especially with, guys out looking for things to, at the end of the season, you're just looking for things to try and watch develop. And I think this is one of those things with Sadiq is, okay, is he going to bounce back from this rough spell? He's not having a great couple games. He just got done having a really hot streak of 30+ games where he was looking really good after a tough stretch at the beginning. Is he going to be able to fight through this stretch and, come up on top at the end of this stretch like he did at the beginning of the season? I just think that's something to watch for. But yeah, he is struggling as of late. Another thing, I'm really interested to see if he continues to struggle. Does Dwayne Casey continue to go with Isaiah Livers late? Is that just something you see just last game? Or are they really that confident in Isaiah Livers where if Sadiq Bey's just struggling, Isaiah Livers just bringing, what I mentioned in the last segment to the team? Are they just really that comfortable with closing with Isaiah Livers? And does that really say bad things about Sadiq Bey, or does it say even more great things about Isaiah Livers and the trust he's already gained with the coaching staff? Who knows? But yeah, just keep your eye out on Sadiq, see how he plays moving forward. I'm not too worried about it, but it'll be something to watch for, I suppose. But that's all I've got for you guys on today's podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Make sure you guys make Locked On NBA your second listen of every single day. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Again, thank you guys for listening today or watching if you're watching this on YouTube. I really appreciate all you guys' support. the Pistons will be playing the Miami Heat today. If you're listening to this on the podcast, it will be today. On YouTube, I'm publishing it a little bit early. You guys might get to listen to it on Monday. But either way, on the 15th, they'll be playing the Heat in less than 24 hours. Be an interesting game. Hopefully, Killian Hayes is coming back. He's been upgraded to probable. So is Rodney Magruder. He got upgraded to probable. Isaiah Stewart is not on the injury report, so it looks like he will be returning. So it'll be interesting to see how they play now and what the rotation looks like with all these added pieces with these guys coming back. But until then, we'll be back with the podcast on Wednesday morning, back to our usual schedule, and recap what happens in that game and everything we see. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody. Stay safe and go Pistons.